There are a couple of countries that stand out on this map. It's not as bad as the Fahrenheit map, but still, why do a few countries drive on the wrong side of the road? You might say that it's just a matter of perspective, but no. One side is literally the right side. There's like 75 countries that drive on the left, so it's actually not that rare. It's about 35% of the world's people, but they all have different reasons behind it. So let's start with Britain, because Australia. They're basically Britain. They still have the Queen on their bills. Actually, this map gets a lot clearer if you just overlay the former British colonies. Now it's just Japan and Thailand that stands out. British colonies were strongly influenced to follow her lead, so the real question is, why would Britain choose to drive on the wrong side? As with all things, it boils down to history and culture. Back when people traveled on horseback, you wanted your sword in your dominant hand, so that you could slice on the person that you're meeting. And Britain is still just in their knifing phase.
Can't you see what you had to... That's not a knife, that's...
But when wagons became larger and people had more and more horses, you wanted to have your whip in your dominant hand. This meant sitting on the left side of the wagon. When meeting another large carriage on a narrow road, it was safer to pass on the side with bare visibility. In the new colony of America, where large wagons and freight carriages were common, right side driving quickly became the norm to accommodate this. There was also two, I was going to say great men, but one of them was Hitler. But two powerful men, I guess, that really liked driving and riding on the right. Napoleon made everyone in his empire ride on the right. Before the French Revolution, wealthy nobles traveled on the left while peasants were forced to the right. But after the revolution, the people didn't really want to look like nobles. So everyone was on the right. Napoleon also needed a practical solution for his huge armies. Keeping everyone moving in the same direction on the right made organizing troops much easier. Later, Hitler continued this trend in the territories he occupied, like Austria and Czechoslovakia. But you've probably already heard the wagon story, so the big question is, why didn't Japan and Britain change like almost every other country? Well, you can't really imagine Britain copying doing something that the French did, and certainly not something that Hitler did. Almost as a way of saying screw you to Napoleon, Britain officially wrote left side travel into the law. They also wrote into the law that you should subscribe if you like my content. I hate myself. Early cars didn't have a set driving position. Some had the drivers on the right, others on the left. At first, people were more worried about running into ditches than oncoming traffic, so right side steering was common. Then along came the Model T. Henry Ford made the steering wheel on the left side of the car so that passengers could exit safely onto the curb instead of into traffic, which was now more of a concern than ditches, since Ford cranked out 50 million Model Ts and shipped them all over the world. In many countries, if they hadn't already, switched to right side driving just to match the new car's norm. Britain, however, had already settled into these left side habits. They had their own car industry, already designing vehicles for left side travel. Changing everything would have been expensive and pointless, so they just stuck with what worked. Germany, another early car manufacturer, were one of the countries that had been conquered by Napoleon and was already driving on the right. And then Hitler forced Austria and Czechoslovakia to also drive on the right. Most people don't realize this, but driving on the right is actually pretty new. Here in Sweden, we didn't switch over until the late 60s. Like, my grandma grew up driving on the left. One morning, everyone just woke up and the signs were changed, and we swapped sides. It helped that most cars in Sweden already had left-hand steering wheels. By then, most of the cars on the road were designed for right-side driving, even the ones we built ourselves, so switching made sense. Well, back to Japan. When Japan started to industrialize, they wanted railroads. It's the British again. Yeah, they called in the British engineers. They were pretty good with trains, having invented them and stuff. They actually help a lot of countries build railways, so some countries that drive cars on the right have left-driving trains. For example, Sweden. By the time cars became popular, Japan saw no reason to have the cars on the other side, so they just stuck with it. You might realize that Japan, Australia and Britain are all islands. It's one of the reasons they have kept the left side driving. They don't have any neighbors to influence them.